Well, a couple weeks ago, I got a great deal on a Kenwood TH79 because the guy said it didn't work anymore. And he said I could have it for parts because I happen to have another one of my own that works perfectly fine. So I took it home and put a good battery in it, turned it on, and what I saw was a display that was trying to display something. But if you can imagine a blank bar, maybe the width of a pencil, about a quarter of the display, across horizontally and just scrolling down like this. So a blank area of the screen made it totally unusable. I've worked with liquid crystal displays a lot in the past, and I had an idea what might be going on. So I took it apart, took a couple hours, found the problem, fixed it, and now it looks like this. So I said, great, now I have two Kenwood TH79s. So I went and got mine out of storage and put the battery in it, turned it on because I'm going to play with a couple of TH79s, and son of a... So mine has a display problem too, although it's completely different. I've seen other people have problems, everything from a blank display to like vertical lines. These are all caused by one problem. There is a piece of glass that makes up the display, and it has a ribbon cable that comes off of it, and it wraps around the back of the display, and the ribbon cable needs to connect to the printed circuit board. Printed circuit board has pads on it, and the cable just lays on the pads, and then they put a piece of foam over the top of the ribbon cable, and then they snap a frame over that holds the display on. The problem is that little piece of foam that they lay down wears out after 30 years, which is how old this radio is, and it gives an indeterminate operation of the display. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this video and show you how to fix it, because I guess I'm probably not the Lone Ranger with this problem. The tools I ended up using were a big needle nose pliers, a littler needle nose pliers, a flathead screwdriver, a very small, like a number 0 Phillips head screwdriver, and little tweezers, and an X-Acto knife, and I had a little nice pair of scissors. And if there's anything else I can think of that we need later on, we'll let you know. But I just want to let you know that taking this apart is pretty easy. You will need to do some soldering, but don't let it scare you. There's no components that you need to desolder. There's just two pins, and they're two big bulky pins that just stand up and they hold the back of the display on. And so they're really easy. You just need to take some solder off of them so you can move the pins out and the display pulls out. Pulling the whole thing apart is pretty quick, so it's really not that much trouble. Make sure I'm doing the right radio here. Yep. So first thing, take your battery out. First thing we need to do is take 3 screws off the back. That screw, and that screw. You can leave the belt clip on. To do that, you're going to want to pull out the CT-CSS cover plate. The knobs are coming off. This is 2 knobs here. And then you got your volume knob. You'll want to pull the lock button off of there. There we go. I'm going to take apart take out the little screw right here that's under this rubber cover, because the rubber cover is coming off anyway later. Now, when you separate the case halves, be careful, because there are 2 things here that we need to unplug before we completely separate them. This ribbon cable and this power cable. This power cable, just grab all 3 wires, kind of brace yourself against the volume knob here, and just pull like that. Comes up very easily. Okay, I went and got a smaller screwdriver so we can lift up on this little pinch connector here. And you just put it right under about there. and go lift. That side's up like that. Needle nose here carefully. And it comes right up. Now the two halves are separated. What we're going to do now is remove two more screws that are in here, and this is something that actually isn't in the service manual, but you'll see these two shiny screws. There's one right here, and there's one right there underneath the green wire. They need to come out before we can lift out the board. So you can get this out of the way here. This, I believe, is part of the Mars mod. I think you go snippy on this wire here, and you've got your Mars mod. These Phillips head screws, which just go straight through the printed circuit board to a boss. That's why I recommend magnetic screwdrivers. I'll unplug the rubber cover here from the speaker mic jacks. Okay, and we're going to take off this top cover. And the top cover, you can see, snaps in right here and right here. So you can kind of get in there with a little screwdriver. Whoops, look at that already a little broken piece of plastic. You're going to find that in an old radio. Plastic pieces, that just came right up, no problem. The other snap is intact. So you may find with 30-year-old plastics, little things like that are going to break, but that's okay. The radio will still hold together. We're going to take off the two nuts for the volume knob and the encoder knob. So the next thing to do is to take the printed circuit board out. But first, you want to make sure that this is out of the speaker mic jacks. Okay, so the next thing, we're going to take off this backing plate right here. That's the backing plate for the keypad. And to do that, you pry apart the two pieces right here. Twist like that, comes right up. So now we need to pull this circuit board out because the liquid crystal display is on the back side of it. This is where you want to start to be a little bit careful. Old plastics. The main thing that you need to do is we have to spread it on the two sides. On this side, you have the speaker mic coming through. Those two jacks come through the plastic, and this will bend a little bit to get out of the way. Bend it too far, you break it. On this side, you have a couple things going on. There is a circuit board standing up here that's your PTT board. It's got the PTT switch on the other side. It's only held in there with this one plug here. There's nothing else that holds that whole board in. It's also got, all the lamp and the monitor and the lock button switches on it. But the only thing that holds it in is this plug right here. So also then you've got the rubber for the switches. So what we need to do is pull this rubber buttons through like this, and that will, and at the same time, spread this. Now, you got to look carefully where you're holding this because you don't want to put too much pressure in any one spot. If you just grab right here, well, look, that plastic right there is really thin, and if you press too hard on one spot, you're going to crack it. Ask me how I know. Grab the plastic, push the button in like this. I'm going to grab these corners, lift gently. There we go. I felt it start to come. So we're going to lift it out at an angle like this, and we're out. There's your problem. If you want to stop the disassembly and confirm that the liquid crystal display is your problem and it's not something else going on, what we can do is we're going to plug this back into here, stick a battery in there temporarily, and do a quick check on the liquid crystal display. Make sure the little ribbon cable header is all the way up. Okay, we're going to plug the ribbon cable back in temporarily here. So you need to push down on that side Push down on this side. Plug in the power cable. Okay, we're going to make sure the power is off here. So what we're going to do is, if you look at the battery, 2 terminals here, the battery terminals are right there. If you just kind of lay the battery in there and hold it and turn it on with your third hand, and we have a boogered up display. And now here's the moment of truth to see if the display is the problem. All you need to do is put a little bit of pressure on the display connector and see if the display comes alive right here. Look at that. There we go. So now we know the display is the problem with this radio. Take the power out, hold here, undo the ribbon cable, lift the little brown header behind there, like that. This circuit board here, you just pull it out, like that. Has this little plug here. By the way, if your lamp and monitor switches aren't working real well, clean off these contacts right here. This display is clipped with these 4 little clips to the side of the board, and there's 2 pins on the back that we're going to go desolder. And the pins are right here, and this pin right here, we need to remove that solder blob. So now we're going to desolder these 2 pins next. Okay, this pin is loose. Remove the bezel over the liquid crystal display. And a good way I found to do that is to take your small needle nose, put one end underneath one of the clips there, and the other end kind of on the edge of the board, and just squeeze, and it comes right up. Go around and do that all 4 corners. Okay, and if you've got all the solder off of those 2 pins in the back and your 4 clips undone, now you can pull the display cover off. And what we're going to see under here is that little piece of foam I was telling you about earlier. It's a little bit sticky. It'll either stick to the board or it'll stick to the back of the display. Okay, this one it's stuck to the board. What we need to do is make this row of connectors press harder against that little piece of foam block, which is up here because we're looking at it upside down now. Is take a little toothpick, slide it under the connector here, which kind of lifts it up. And this needs to go under here. As long as that foam is underneath this row of connectors, it's going to work. So now when we snap this back together, this is sitting up a lot higher, and now it's going to push against this piece of foam, and these contacts will make better contact. If you have any contact cleaner, got to make sure it's plastic safe. Not a bad time to clean off that cable there a little bit. I'm going to squirt a little bit onto the end of a Q-tip. Okay, if you're feeling confident, assembly is the reverse of disassembly. If you're not feeling confident, follow along. We're going to snap this back on. Down through the hole. And this one, you can tell when the bezel for the LCD is clipped all the way down because this standoff will be flush with the board. And we need to resolder our two little pins here. And if you happen to have some liquid crystal display cleaner and a chem wipe, it's not a bad time to clean your inside of your display. Make sure the keypad is in there. Snap the sideboard back on. Rubber buttons back into the case. These two rubber blocks right here are the connection for your speaker. When you flip this over and put it in here, they make contact right here and here. I'll turn it over carefully. Make sure you don't have any fingerprints on your display, because you'll look at that afterwards and go, oh! Okay, the volume and encoder knobs need to slide in up here. We're gonna slide the volume encoder knobs down. Get the speaker mic jacks lined up with their holes. And then we're gonna need to push in this way, put the speaker mic through their little holes, or get them started anyway, and spread this apart as we push down on the board. So a little bit at a time, make sure things are lining up. There's our speaker mic jacks, found the right holes. Be careful where you push. I'm going to push on this big knob here and on the protective cover of the top of this board. Get it going down a little bit. The bracket should line up nicely with the top of the volume and encoder knobs. Speaker mic's in the right position there. And that's the right height for the side board. The condenser microphone is on the other side of these two connections here. So you kind of want to push forward and down a little bit. Make sure it finds the its little recess there, as that's where you talk. This goes in with the two clips up like this, and it holds the board in. So we're going to put these two clips against the board, and we're going to push forward on it. Put the two screws back in that hold down the circuit board. And make sure this piece here is up and loose. Push it all the way down into the connector. I'm going to push that header down on the back. Nice even row of pins. Plug in the power wire. Now, before we go any further, you can actually check it and see if we fixed it here before putting all the rest of it back together. Take your battery, hold the battery in place, and let's see what we got here. Look at that, a functional radio. Reinstall the two nuts for the volume and the encoder knobs. Put the top cap back on. Make sure the rubber gasket is still in place there. Okay, we're going to close up the radio halves. And it just presses together like that. Hold it together and take the two longer screws. And we're going to put them in the top section there. And the shorter screw goes here, and tighten them all up. Take the small machine screw, goes right in here. Put the CT/CSS cover back in. It reads right side up, and it reads the same orientation as the speaker and mic there. Replace the lock, unlock switch. This you just lay in there into the hole, kind of drop it, and it will snap over the little button that's underneath there. So we're going to put the encoder knob back on. So make sure that this bottom section here is turned fully counterclockwise. and it's going to go on lining up with that little dot there. Top portion of the knob goes on, volume knob. If the volume is all the way off, then it should line up. Okay, and now the moment of truth. We'll put the antenna on it here. And got battery pack. It's going to go on like this. Make sure that power's off. Battery in. Ready. Set. Look at that. Ready to go. So there you go. It's doable if you just want to go through the steps. Just take your time. Be careful with the plastics. Get yourself some 1mm 32nd inch foam tape and a soldering iron, or a friend with a soldering iron, a couple tweezers, Phillips head. You too can make your TH79 work for another 30 years. Cheers.